16th of May 1983 is a day that many South Sudanese remember with nostalgia. So every year, South Sudanese celebrate this day as the day in which a Southern battalion in Bor shot the first bullet for the so-called second liberation of South Sudan that would last for 21 years until 2005 when the comprehensive peace agreement was signed. So what is so unique about this day? To South Sudanese, this is a day that was that marks the beginning of a struggle that will see what we call South Sudan today. A struggle that was relentless. So many South Sudanese died in unison. It was everybody combined, as all the South Sudanese, dying in large numbers because they have said no to marginalization, discrimination, sabotage, being looked down upon as second-class citizens, being ridiculed every day in Khartoum. Khartoum being developed while the Southerners had never seen the development. No schools in the south of the high standards. No hospitals. No meaningful established institutions. So Southerners were done with this kind of marginalization and decided to take arms. So this day was chosen by the SPLM SPLA to be remembered for this cause. This is a day that would be followed by the High Youth Revolution led by Nyon Bany, CDE or CDR Nyon Bany, a general who was working for the Sudanese army. When he heard that Kribino Kwanyinbol, who revolted in Bor on the 16th of May, and actually that Kribino was shot, he decided enough was enough. He fought a whole battalion and became victorious and began the march. And that was the battalion 105. He began the march towards Bonga, where then the SPLA will be born. When you look at this day also, 16th of May, a man called Yusuf Kirtan, who is a Nuer, went and carried Kribino after Kribino was injured and took him all the way through all the Nuer territories to Hitam and to Bonga. So this is a time that when South Sudanese look back, all this period is a period where there was so much pride within the South Sudanese. The South Sudanese never looked at who was leading the army in terms of which nationality or what the so-called tribes was. It was just a matter of what can we do as Southerners to liberate ourselves from this animal called dehumanization that was happening. The South Sudanese took to the bush regardless of which other part of the South Sudan they were coming from. They came all the way from Baragadal, from the equatorial regions, all the regions, from Bentiu, everywhere, and they went to Eastern Nuer, where they established the SPLM, SPLA. By the time the South Sudanese were reaching there, the Nuer were already there, and were the majority of the army, 90% or so, were made out of the Nuer, as proclaimed by Dr. John Garang Mabur. So why did South Sudanese choose this day? I feel this is some little bias by the SPLM, SPLA to put the liberation war or victory as theirs. Ignorantly or intentionally ignoring the efforts that were made by people before them in the liberation of South Sudan struggle. It could have been easily, you could be celebrating the 18th of August, 1955, when the first bullet was shot in Taurit, and that was Anyanya 1. Why not that day? To be celebrated as the foundation. Because the SPLM leaders who were there, or we came from 1983, just wanted to make this perhaps the history. Because even today, when you play the songs in the national television, most of these leaders are not even shown as much. Joseph Lagu and all the other liberators of Anyanya 1. And then they could also have chosen 1975, when a group of leaders, majority mostly in the Nuer, said that the Khartoum agreement was not being honored. Sorry, the Addis Ababa agreement was not being honored. That was signed to end the Anyanya 1 war. That was signed in 1972. Was not being honored by Jafar Nimeri. And therefore they decided that they will go for the struggle to liberate South Sudan or the southern region. They were the first people to pronounce this. So, and this was led by Vincent Kwan-Lerjor, Abdallah Shoda, Kaitut, and the rest of the people who were actually found in Itang, have established a base in Itang before the SPLM was formed, before Dr. John Garang Mabur and the likes of Dr. Riamachar and the likes of Salva Kiir Mayardit, who came later, found them there. In fact, they were even fought by the SPLM. Some of them were killed, including Kaitut, intentionally by the SPLM, to rub this history and try to bury it. So the SPLM has a history of killing its main leaders. Although during the struggle of creating bad images, of impunity, despite having worked so hard as well, and credit to those who fought so hard to liberate South Sudan. But we have to look at the SPLM critically. Why is it that since we got independence in South Sudan, there has not been a single time when there is calm in South Sudan? Why? Could it be because of this hidden agenda of the SPLM that nobody knows? Because the choosing of 16 May instead of 1975, 16 May 1983 instead of 1975, or instead of 1982, because the first bullet was actually shot in Mankin by Gadwel Nyakwai. That was the first bullet, but nowadays we will say that it was only in Bor that the first bullet was shot. This is distorting history to either satisfy a few people, to make them happy, or to achieve a certain agenda. To rub a certain people out of the history of the SPLM, which we have seen now as being the game. Because where I'm coming to now is that you will see the Nuer people are being robbed out of the liberation movement. And you see from all the songs that are played in the television, only in your mind sometimes is mentioned a little bit, few seconds. People like Yusuf Ketang, who actually saved Kirbino, is not mentioned. Oh, the liberators. So it seems now the community that liberated South Sudan is the Dinka nation, which is wrong, absolutely wrong. The people who are being killed today with the gunships from Uganda, whose children are being murdered now in broad daylight, the Nuer. Including their father, the senior Kongshol Kulang. Dwight Tai, who was killed by the SPLA, fire squad by Garang. Even Yusuf Kitang was killed and fire squad by Garang, Dr. Garang. So the SPLM actually has this history of eliminating or killing the Nuer leaders. Now, in our arrest, surprisingly, is Dr. Remachar, a man who came and joined the SPLM leadership, worked so hard and commanded soldiers, won battles, liberated Bentiu, which was his area, and Upper Nile. And now he's being treated like someone who has never heard any history in South Sudan. Arrested anyhowly. So how do we see this, as South Sudanese? Is history not being distorted to please a few? But can we distort history? Can history be distorted? That's the question. It is so unbelievable that today the people, the Nuer people of the eastern Nuer, who actually worked so hard to host the SPLA and started it, and also Anyanya too, gave their sons and daughters for the war. Their land was destroyed, and they ended up living in refugee camps as the first South Sudanese to live in refugee camps in large numbers, just for the liberation of South Sudan. They kept their children. Today, after the independence of South Sudan in 2025 March and counting, they are being chased away by gunships from Uganda. By a president, somebody they hosted years ago, 42 years ago today, to be exact. When Salva Kiir ran from Malakal, it was the Eastern Nuer people who received him. Today he is bombing them, shooting them, killing them children mercilessly just because they are Nuer. Because there's no other reason. There's nothing to do with the white army. You want to wipe out the Nuer community. The Nuer community who fought so hard for South Sudan independence. As we do this video, as we do this analysis, now the Nuer children are just across borders in Ethiopia and other areas. Soon it will be rainy seasons and they will not be having any place to stay. The land confiscated. Nyon Bany, who did the rebellion in Hayod, his children now are being bombed. Just 2 days ago, Whitmore Denjak was bombed. Children who have ran away to the reeds of the Nile to cover themselves in the water were being followed, looked, searched for by helicopters and gunships, and are bombed and killed, maimed. This has nothing to do with anybody having a rebellion with Salva Kiir Mayardit's government. It is an agenda to wipe out the Nuer. And it is something that we must put in history as a very bad precedent that has been set by President Salva Kiir Mayardit and his ethnocratic regime, a regime that he has used a minority of the Dinka community, that I must say, are the one doing this. The agenda and the intention is not good, even for the Dinka nationality. It's not good for them. There are so many Dinka who do not support what they're doing. But this small group, most of them sanctioned by the international community, want to die with South Sudan. But the question that we're asking is, so how long will this continue? And how long can South Sudan sustain this? If Museveni and his son, the people who are supporting this, ever exist power in Uganda, or God forbid they die, what happens? Will this continue? How do you ensure that the wounds that are created are mended? So these are questions that we must leave out there for any thinking South Sudanese to caution the current leaders of what they are doing as being wrong. It is high time. Yes, it is high time that sense is put into these leaders to be told that there is no community, no single society or nationality will be wiped out of South Sudan, regardless of however much you try to intimidate them and ban them. It is not the first time. It was done by the Northerners to intimidate communities within the South. They did not succeed. So this one also will not succeed. The only issues and problems that I see coming ahead is that it will prolong the suffering of South Sudanese. Because war will just continue to regenerate itself. It will become protected even more. Something which there is no need. Because now if I ask a question, why do we celebrate then the SPLA day? Why do we celebrate it? While you are killing people who should be relaxing now, enjoying the fruits of the liberation, through schools, through roads that have been built, through institutions that have been set up. Is this not an irony that we fought for the independence? If you look at it now, it seems as if there's no difference between before the independence of South Sudan and now. Actually, some people might even argue that South Sudanese were doing better, were more friendly, lived among each other and intermarried before independence than now. What went wrong, SPLM? This is an answer for you, a question for you to answer. I think you are burying the country. I think you have come up with a lot of ethnic tones, ethnic groupings, ethnic profiling ethnic views that you are using to form the state, and you forgot that South Sudanese fought side by side among each other with each other, supporting each other to ensure that South Sudan is liberated. What you have done is so unfortunate. The people in government, what will you do when your time comes to an end? Or do you feel that this will not happen? You bring another nation to come and kill your own people. It will go down as the worst government, perhaps in South Sudan history. Perhaps. Because what you're doing now is even worse than what Idi Amin did in Uganda. Because for Idi Amin, he was killing the politicians. He was not targeting children, burning them down. So what South Sudan is doing now, what Salva Kiir is doing, and his team and his group, is worse than Idi Amin Dada. Worse than Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire. It is unbelievable. Because Idi Amin Dada never went to Kenya or Tanzania or any other place to come and bring bombs and cluster bombs and airplanes and drones to kill his own people, their children. He never did this. I will leave it right here. I'm asking a question. Is it the SPLA day that is being celebrated today? The people or the people who are celebrating are the only people who are enjoying the government who are the one causing the chaos. Try and please psychopathically the president, Salva Kiir Mayardit. It goes unto you that when you fought for the independence of South Sudan, did you really mean it? Thank you very much.